That night began like any other, but ended as a turning point that would divide my life into before and after. I can still feel the weight of the black briefcase in my hand, even now, as if it were stuck to my skin, burning slowly, waiting for the exact moment to change my destiny. It was just an object, an ordinary, discrete rectangle, nothing special at first glance. But there was something about it, something I couldn't explain. Maybe it was the way my wife held it when she came home, early in the evening, as if protecting it was more important than breathing. Or maybe it was the fear in her eyes when she realized I had seen what she was trying to hide. What matters is that, at that moment, everything changed. I was in the hallway when she appeared, clutching that folder so tightly her fingers turned white. She almost jumped when she saw me. Her eyes, usually calm and serene, were wide, gleaming with something I hadn't seen since the worst moments of our life together: fear. It wasn't irritation, it wasn't surprise, it wasn't shame. It was panic, and that, to me, was the first sign that something was very wrong. She took a step back, as if I were a thief about to snatch something from her. "Please," she murmured, her voice almost failing. It was a plea, but also a warning. "Please, don't open that." The phrase echoed in the air like silent thunder. I tried to understand what was happening. There was no reason for so much drama, right? A black folder, a file maybe, papers from her work, maybe overdue bills, maybe some document she simply didn't want me to see because she thought I would worry. But there was something deeper there, something that made my heart beat faster, not out of curiosity, but out of instinct. Some part of me knew, this isn't just paper. She held out her hand, as if she wanted me to return the folder immediately, but I was still holding it, half dazed, half trying to decipher her expression. Why was she like this? Why did she seem so desperate? Why did the mere fact of me touching that object make her breathing quicken as if she had run a marathon? All of this hit me at once, as if dozens of questions were trying to burst through the door of my mind all at once. I felt doubt, a heavy, dense doubt that ran through me from head to toe. Was she hiding something about our life, about our marriage, about herself? I felt fear, not a paralyzing fear, but a fear that spread slowly, like a shadow invading every corner of the room. Fear of discovering something I wasn't prepared to face. Fear that that object could destroy everything we had built. But along with the fear came curiosity. Curiosity is treacherous, especially when mixed with suspicion. It grows slowly, like water seeping through cracks. First it's a drop, then another and another, until, when we realize it, we're sinking. And that's how it was with me. Every gesture of my wife, every tremor in her voice, every glance she averted, everything fueled a flame inside me. What is she hiding? Why? She took another step forward. This time her voice came out almost as a desperate whisper. "Please, love, don't open that." Love. The word sounded weak, almost disconnected from what she truly felt. And that's when I realized it wasn't just a secret. It was something that could change everything. Something she herself didn't want to face. I looked at the folder again. Such a simple, ordinary object. But at that moment it carried an enormous weight. And I felt something I had never felt before within my own marriage, the feeling that I was about to cross a line of no return, as if there were an invisible door before me, and the folder was the key. And if I used that key, the world on the other side would be completely different. My heart started racing. My stomach churned. My hands were sweating. It was as if my whole body was trying to warn me to stop, to respect her request, to let it go and move on as if nothing had happened. But my mind was already too far away. I needed to know. I needed to understand why my wife, the woman with whom I had shared so many years, was so terrified by the idea of me opening a simple file. And then it happened. That heavy silence, that look she gave me, a mixture of pleading and defeat, pierced me like an arrow. I knew that the moment I made my decision, our lives would change forever. There was no turning back. There was no more room for doubt. Only the truth remained, whatever it might be. It was at that moment that the phrase came to my mind as if someone were whispering in my ear. I should have listened to her. because after I opened it, nothing went back to normal. Before the black briefcase entered my life, I would swear that my marriage was one of those that, even with flaws, was going strong. Nothing extraordinary, nothing perfect, but sincere. Or at least I believed it was. We had our routines, our little rituals, our way of existing side by side. I used to say that life as a couple wasn't made of grand events, but of small habits that, together, build something bigger. And for a long time, that seemed true. We always shared breakfast in a hurry, but with that knowing smile that said, "I'm here." At night, sometimes we watched something together. Other times, we each stayed in our own world, but always in the same environment. There was comfort in that. There was familiarity. She would leave notes on the refrigerator when she left early. I would text her when I knew she was having a difficult day. Small things, small tokens of care. That's how I defined our marriage. Every day, but secure. But now, looking back, I realize how many details I ignored. How many signs were there, scattered like crumbs of a secret I never imagined existed. Late-night phone calls, for example. Before, I thought it was just her job. She always had a position that required availability outside of working hours. But over time, those calls started to become more frequent and her behavior more tense. She would answer quickly, go to another room, lower her voice, and sometimes leave the room as if the mere presence of the call could hurt me. I would ask her what was wrong, and she would reply with a tired smile. Nothing much, just work stuff. A simple smile. But now when I close my eyes, I see that the smile didn't reach her eyes. It was automatic, fragile, rehearsed. There were also the hidden boxes. At first I thought they were just keepsakes, old objects, things she hadn't yet decided to throw away. She was always attached to sentimental objects, letters, photographs, small things that held memories. But these boxes, they were different, always closed, always out of sight. And she would get strangely tense when I passed too close to them, as if she feared I would touch them, open them, discover something I shouldn't. There were also those vacant stares, moments when I would talk to her and she would simply switch off, as if her mind were stuck somewhere far away. I would ask if she was okay, and she would say, "Just tired." And I believed her. Because, in the mind of a trusting husband, everything has a simple explanation. Because adult life is tiring, it wears you down, it drains you. I attributed all of this to stress, to the weight of work, to the routine that occasionally crushes even the strongest marriages. And the most painful thing to admit is that I truly trusted her. I trusted her so deeply that I never imagined she could hold something big enough to change our world. I believed what she said. I believed in the silences, the smiles, the quick little explanations. I trusted her because that's what love does. It fills the gaps with hope, and sometimes that hope blinds. We had a history, years together, a past built on pressures, achievements, arguments, reconciliations, dreams that changed directions several times. We had plans that fell by the wayside, but we always talked about trying again someday. We've been through tough times, job loss, family illness, financial crises, but somehow we were always a team. At least, that's what I thought. There were nights when she cried on my shoulder and I stayed there, steadfast, believing I was being her safe haven. There were days when I felt lost, and she hugged me, saying everything would be all right. I clung to that image of us, because it was all I knew. It was all I needed. But small details began to accumulate, like loose pieces of a puzzle I didn't even know I was trying to put together. And yet, I didn't see any malice. I could see tiredness. I saw overload. I saw concern. Never, not for a second, did I imagine betrayal, deep secrets, hidden documents, buried truths. Because who would have imagined? Who looks at their own marriage expecting to find an abyss hidden behind a simple black briefcase? Who looks at the face of the person they love and thinks, there's something here that could destroy everything? Nobody. I was no different. I was just a man who believed in the best, who believed in the woman with whom he shared years of his life, who believed that love, however silent, was enough to sustain everything. And perhaps that's exactly what makes this part of the story so painful, the innocence. I was living a seemingly normal marriage. I was happy as much as possible. I trusted him. I saw no reason to be suspicious. I never imagined that the truth was there all along, circulating through the house in muffled phone calls, hidden in locked boxes, reflected in empty stares that I always excused. I never imagined that that common silence hid something so profound, something so big, something so devastating, until the day the black folder appeared, and with it came the revelation that would dismantle everything I thought I knew. Because in the end, the phrase that sums up that moment is the same one that has echoed in my mind ever since. I never imagined that a simple object held the kind of truth capable of destroying an entire life. I could say I opened the black folder quickly, on impulse, but that wasn't the case. The truth is, the whole moment seemed to happen in slow motion, as if time itself were aware of what was about to happen and, out of mercy or cruelty, wanted to prolong every second. My fingers slid along the edge of the folder with an almost painful hesitation. That simple, cold, hard zipper weighed more than any door I'd ever had to open in my life. I felt that, by pulling it, I would be opening not just an object, but a hidden part of my own history, of our history. The house was silent, a silence so thick it seemed to cling to the walls. My wife stood a few steps behind, unable to hide the trembling in her hands. Her face said everything that words couldn't: fear, guilt, despair, perhaps even regret. But there was also something strange in her eyes, as if she were relieved, as if the secret she carried was finally about to be ripped from within her, forcefully, but still in a liberating way. I pulled down the zipper slowly, very slowly. Every inch felt like thunder. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I'm not exaggerating, I literally heard my own heart. It was as if it was trying to stop me, trying to warn me, trying to escape before I saw what was hidden there. When the folder finally opened, I didn't look at the contents immediately. I couldn't. It was as if my body had frozen. Then my eyes drifted, not to the papers, not to the objects, but to her, to her face. And that's when the first impact hit me. My wife's expression shattered me even before I touched what was inside the folder. Her face was broken. I had never seen anyone look at me like that. It wasn't the look of someone afraid of being caught. It was worse. It was the look of someone who knows they've just lost everything. In that instant, I realized that the revelation inside the folder wasn't just about her. It was about me, about who I was, about what she knew and I didn't, about what she had carried alone for so long, about what she feared I would discover, not for her sake, but for mine. With short breaths, I finally looked inside, and the first thing I saw was papers. Lots of papers. Documents yellowed with age, folded and unfolded countless times. They looked like files from some past I didn't even know existed. There were also photos, old photographs, some in black and white, others slightly worn, as if they had been handled in secret for years. And in the middle of them, a letter, a sealed envelope with my name handwritten on it, a handwriting that wasn't hers. My fingers trembled as I touched the envelope, but before opening it, I picked up one of the photos. It was an image of a young woman holding a baby. The baby was me. Even though I had never seen that photo in my life, I knew. The feeling was instantaneous, visceral, almost animalistic. I recognized my face. I recognized those eyes. I recognized that small birthmark on the side of my chin. But the woman, I had never seen her before. That woman, the one holding me with an almost sad smile, wasn't my mother. She wasn't anyone I knew, but she was clearly someone my wife knew. She knew about this photo. She knew this story. She knew about this woman, and I didn't. The ground seemed to disappear. I felt my legs weaken. The world spun for a second. My wife took a step forward, but stopped, as if afraid to get too close. I couldn't breathe properly. It was as if every piece of my life was falling off a shelf and shattering on the floor. I picked up another document, an adoption certificate. Mine, signed, dated, from a place I've never been, with names I've never heard of. My heart raced. My hands trembled so much that the papers rattled in the air. All of that had been there all along, inside a folder that my wife had kept hidden, protected, guarded like a time bomb waiting for the right moment to explode. And then I picked up the envelope with my name on it. It was sealed, but the paper was so old I was afraid to tear it open. Inside was a handwritten letter, a long letter, the ink already somewhat faded. It began, "To my son, when you finally know the truth." I couldn't read the rest at that moment. The letters began to blur in my own eyes. It was as if the world was spinning at an impossible speed. It was as if everything I had lived up to that point had been built on a foundation I didn't know, as if my entire life had been a poorly developed photograph. And now, finally, I was seeing the shadows hidden behind the image. My wife started to speak, but I could barely hear. Her voice sounded distant, muffled, as if it were coming from another room, another reality. She said she didn't want me to find out like this. She said she tried to protect me. She said this truth was too heavy, that she didn't know how to tell me, that she didn't know how I would react. She said she kept the folder because she was afraid of seeing me break down. And at that moment, I was really falling apart. Each document was a stab in the back. Each photo was a shock. Every detail distanced me further from the life I thought I had. I thought I knew my wife. I thought she was my safe haven. I thought there was sincerity in her silence. I thought the only thing between us were the normal challenges of life. But the folder, the black folder, revealed who she really was. Not a traitor, not an enemy, but someone who carried a secret that would change everything, and who, out of fear or love, decided to hide it from me. And the phrase that echoed within me at that moment, cold as a blade, was, "I thought I knew my wife," until the black briefcase revealed who she really was. The silence following the discovery was so dense, it seemed to have its own weight. The black folder lay open on the table, its papers scattered like fragments of an emotional explosion. I was sitting there, but inside I felt as if I were falling in free fall, with nothing to hold on to. My wife stood there a few steps away, as if an invisible line delimited how far she could go without completely severing what little remained between us. The inevitable conversation didn't begin with words. It began with breaths. Hers short, trembling, unsteady. Mine heavy, drawn out, as if each breath required rebuilding my lungs. I didn't look directly at her. My gaze went back and forth between the documents, as if trying to find some error, some hidden explanation, some proof that all of this was a gigantic mistake. But it wasn't. Nothing there left room for doubt. Finally, she took the first step, literal and emotional. She approached slowly, her hands clasped in front of her, a silent plea even before speaking. And then, her voice breaking, she whispered, "I was going to tell you. I swear I was going to." I felt something inside me break a little. Anger, hurt, wounded love, maybe all at once. It was like holding embers in my hands. It hurt, it burned, but I couldn't let go. For a moment, I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to demand answers that perhaps even she didn't have. But no words came out, because deep down, I knew that any phrase I uttered would forever change the way we looked at each other. She moved a little closer and began to explain. She said she found those documents years ago. She said she never imagined I wouldn't know about my own adoption. She believed I kept silent out of pain, not ignorance. She discovered the truth accidentally while organizing my family's belongings after the death of a distant relative. She said she kept everything waiting for the right moment to tell me, a moment that never came, because fear grew faster than courage. She said she tried to protect me, that she was afraid of hurting me, that she didn't know how I would react, that she was afraid of destroying my memory of the family that raised me, that she didn't know if I would go after this mysterious mother in the photo, if I would hate her for hiding this, if I would blame her for carrying this secret alone. Her words came quickly, desperately, as if she were trying to build a bridge before I drifted away completely. But each of her explanations was accompanied by another feeling in me, disbelief. It was difficult to understand how someone who had slept beside me for so many years could carry such a profound truth without even giving me a clue. It was difficult to reconcile the woman I knew, caring, loving, protective, with the woman who was now there, asking forgiveness for having hidden the most fundamental part of my story. I was torn between the hurt of having been deceived, anger at having been kept in the dark, love for someone who, despite everything, was an essential part of my life, and the confusion of not knowing which of these emotions was dominant. The conversation turned into a sea of confessions. She admitted to being afraid that I wouldn't be strong enough to handle the truth. He admitted that he had kept the folder countless times, wanting to give it to me, but always backing down when he thought about my reaction. He admitted that perhaps he had underestimated my ability to confront my own past. And I listened to everything, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. And that's when the possible paths emerged, those who would change everything depending on the choice I made at that moment. She cried, begged for forgiveness, asked me to try to understand. She said she loved me. She said she didn't want to lose what we had built. There was a moment when I realized I could forgive her, not completely, not immediately, but partially, in a hard, slow, painful way. A difficult reconciliation, full of stitches that would need to be stitched together with patience and honesty. But there was another moment, a silent instant when I looked into her eyes and felt a distance so great it seemed impossible to cross. A definitive break seemed the only way to protect myself from more lies, the feeling that something had broken forever. That trust, once shattered, would never be whole again. And there was a third possibility, unexpected even for me, the shocking decision to follow the truth to the end, even if it meant temporarily distancing myself from it. To search for my origins, find the woman in the photo, discover the complete story of my adoption, and only then decide the future of our marriage. While I was trying to organize these possibilities in my mind, something completely unexpected happened. An extra revelation. My wife, in an almost inaudible voice, confessed that she had already met the woman in the photo, that they had talked, that she knew who that person was, that there was information in the folder that I hadn't even seen yet. This final blow left me stunned. The world, which was already spinning, turned upside down once again. Given all of this, only one thing was certain. No matter which path I chose, nothing would ever be the same again. And, amidst this emotional chaos, a phrase began to form within me. A phrase that became the synthesis of everything I had experienced that day. There are truths that set you free, and there are truths that destroy you. I found both inside that folder. If this story captivated you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me bring you more compelling and mysterious stories like this one. And tell me, would you have opened the folder, or would you have heeded the warning?